One of the most difficult skills for inexperienced writers is structure and organization. So this week, as we begin our draft, we want to sit for a few minutes and think very purposefully about the argument that we are trying to construct. We first want to determine the purpose of our writing. What is it that we are trying to persuade our audience of? And we want to begin by recognizing our own expertise. We have now spent 5 or 6 weeks researching in a specific topic, and we are now the class expert in that topic. The purpose of this first draft, then, is to educate our audience and begin to persuade them. The thesis of an argument essay has two parts. It makes a claim and then gives a reason or reasons for that claim. Often students begin writing with half a thesis. They begin with the claim and then they discover the reason for their claim as they work through the information. This is fine as long as you remember that the thesis of your final draft has to have two parts. You will make a claim about your topic and you will give a reason or reasons that make that claim true. In thinking about our purpose and in constructing our argument thesis, we want to go back and consider the genres of argument. What type of argument are we making? Are we pointing out the cause of a problem, as in the example here, greater demand as new markets grow in China and India account for the rise in oil prices? So we can see the claim, there has been a rise in oil prices, and the reason for that claim, greater demand by new markets. If we are making an evaluative argument, we would see a claim such as the example given here. The Walmart model is a good business model for opening a business in India. That's a claim. And the reason for that is because of the emerging middle class. So Walmart here is being equated with a middle class consumer. We might be proposing a solution to a problem, as we see in the example here. Dell should market laptops in Africa, is the claim, in order to grow its customer base is the reason. So again, consider the purpose of your argument and then try and marry that purpose with a genre of argumentation in order to achieve a fully realized claim and reason thesis. In order to help us do two things, one, develop that purpose and claim, and two, to kind of begin to integrate the information that we have collected through our research, please utilize the synthesis matrix you will find in week number 8. This should help you organize and structure your information in an integrated way and not just moving through article after article. The synthesis matrix may help you work toward an outline that will help you further structure and organize your essay. So we want to talk about some generalities that we will expect. First, we will expect an effective title. And effective titles generally allude to your thesis. One-word titles, music, are not generally effective because there are 1,000 different arguments that could be made about music. If we don't marry our title to our thesis, we're missing an opportunity to begin to persuade our audience. In the introduction of the essay, it is best to use pathos appeals here so that you can connect your topic directly to your audience and persuade them to be engaged in reading and committed to your argument. Of course, the body of the essay works to prove your thesis, And this is where we will begin to incorporate our research in three ways. We incorporate research in direct quotes, in paraphrases, and in summary. The paper will end, of course, with your conclusion, which again should return to the audience, and rather than just reiterating your thesis, should then tell the audience how to utilize the information that you've just educated them on. Each paragraph in an essay is a mini essay in itself. It should begin with a point sentence that tells the audience what piece of evidence you're presenting, and then it elaborates by giving us examples and illustrations of the point that you are making. So you might want to think about this little anagram, sexy. I didn't make it up. We make a statement, we then elaborate or explain, again using examples and illustrations. This means we will fully flesh out each paragraph. One of the final things that we want to think about as we edit is making transitions between paragraphs. And so often I will ask students to read the last sentence and the first sentence of each paragraph in order to make sure that there is a smooth connection being made from one paragraph to another. In integrating sources, we want to not only protect ourselves against plagiarism, but really engage in a conversation with our readers and fellow writers. And so we protect our ethos by integrating sources faithfully and trying to allow people to get back to the original source of information if they desire. We must cite any sources that we quote, paraphrase, or summarize. And so in an integration, when we might be summarizing from a number of sources, we need to try to carefully parse out where we're getting our information from so that we can direct our readers again back to that direct source of original information. One of the ways that we protect our ethos and control our argument is by introducing quotes with a signal phrase. This means that we are telling our audience how to receive this information. So here's an example. George Smith, another supporter of cloning and the president of the Human Cloning Foundation, believes that science fiction works have created hysteria in popular media. Smith argues, now we have a direct quote, "From Frankenstein to Sixth Day, our popular media has done nothing but stir up the public's anxiety about monsters." So note that what the first sentence of the signal phrase does is it gives us the author that we are quoting, but also that author's expertise. It tells us their bias toward cloning and also identifies the position of authority, the president of Human Cloning Foundation. And then in the second sentence, we have a more direct signal phrase, Smith argues, that introduces the quote. Note that we don't just dump from Frankenstein after the first sentence. Again, we want to maintain control of the text by introducing quotes. We never want to begin or end a paragraph with a quote because, again, that means we're not controlling the text. However, we can begin a paragraph with an extended signal phrase. A view that contradicts Smith's is articulated by John Brown, who contends that. So after our discussion of the previous view on cloning, we might in the next paragraph present the counter argument. Note that the information that we include in our parenthetical citation often depends on the signal phrase. whether or not we have introduced the author as we introduce the quote. If we do not introduce the author as we introduce the quote, we must include the author's last name and the page number that we took that quote from in that author's work in the parentheses as you see in the first example here, Gilb 24. If you do introduce the author in the signal phrase, the only information we need in the parentheses is the page number from which we took the quote. If we are working from an HTML file and not a PDF, HTMLs don't have page numbers. Instead of a page number, we would include the abbreviation for paragraph, PAR period, and 15. This tells us automatically that this is taken from an HTML file from the 15th paragraph. You'll want to vary your signal phrases by utilizing the purpose for which you're using the quotes so that you don't become repetitive within the text. And so a number of those a number of examples are here. In the words of researcher as Flora Davis notes, claims Noam Chomsky, Terence answers these objectives with the following analysis. So the more information you can include in the signal phrase, the more seamless the quote will become in your paper, and also the more persuasive. Often students don't believe that they can make changes within a quote, and this is incorrect. We can change anything within a quote as long as we bracket the things that we are changing within the quote. So in this example, Smith argues that the popular media look only to the profit they can gain from the picture they paint of the cloning procedure. So note the author of the essay who is utilizing this quote from Smith has inserted the word they twice, and we know this from the brackets, back to reference popular media so that it reads more smoothly within their own text. Again, signal phrases are important because they help us show our audience how to receive the information. How does it tie into our purpose and our argument? So I am offering a list of signal phrases for you to begin to utilize from the book They Say, We Say in this list. We might, our, our author acknowledges, agrees, argues, denies, complains, concedes, demonstrates, celebrates, emphasizes. Again, these words tell us how the author is seeing the information that they are conferring to us. We have now done a lot of research, and the requirements for this essay are that you must include references to 5 academic and/or government articles. You may utilize any number of sources beyond that, but you must include these 5, which mean that we expect at least 5 works on a works cited page. Now, any sources that you cite within the paper must be cited on the works cited page. However, a lot of times we'll actually have more articles that we've read and consulted that we just haven't cited within our paper, and we will add a second list which we will then call the works consulted. What this does is it builds our ethos as people recognize even though we might have only cited 8 sources, we've actually read 10 or 12. Again, building our expertise. Since most of our work cited will be taken from articles found within the library database, I'm just giving you here the citation formula for an article. You should have the author's last name followed by a comma, the first name and a period. The article title will be cited in quotation marks. The journal title will be italicized. You will have VOL period and the number of the volume, comma, NO period and the number of the volume, comma, the year the article was published, comma, PP period, and then the page range on which you can find that article. And I give you an example below. Please consult me, the CWC, or the Purdue OWL if you have any questions on incorporating or citing sources to protect your ethos.